You know?
Right. Yeah, did that one arm's length, right?
Yeah.
That's the least of the problems, right?
Well, they had a guy like that too over in Scotland, because when in 1972, my first Open Championship
Yep.
that I was fortunate to go to, it was Jack and Lee Trevino
Right.
and Tony Jacklin were Tony Jacklin that
Right.
looked like he was going to
Yeah.
maybe win it, and we passed by a tent where you could hear the voiceover, and they really spouting off for Tony, but Tony was he was diving, and it was Jack and Trevino. So we're following, me and several other riders are following Jack up. It was about the 17th hole, and the head guy from the RNA came and assaulted us. We were too close. You know, it wasn't
far away from the rope.
Wasn't bothering Nicholas at all.
Right. Yeah, that's something. Well, that was 50 years ago, 1961, when you made your debut, so to speak, covering a major golf tournament. I'm going to bring you back 50 years to 2021. You were there when Oakland Hills made their debut of their new golf course, of the new South Golf Course, the renovation with Gil Hance. And
Yes.
I know you were there and interviewed Gil Hance and Steve Brady.
Yep.
Tell me your impressions of that now that you've seen you saw the Oakland Hills in the 50s and the 60s, and now you're seeing this new rendition.
I've seen it mainly on television. I've had a lot of offers to go and see it and get around and I will do that, but they have taken out a lot of trees,
Right.
and you can see that magnificent clubhouse from practically everywhere in the golf course now.
That's what they say.
And it's just more open, and will it be more difficult? Who knows, because now they've got another big factor in them getting back in the picture so far, or
Right.
as it is the getting the plumbing under all the greens.
Sub-air system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The Masters was the
Right.
first
Remember,
to innovate.
the previous was the PGA or the Open at Oakland Hills, where the bunkers were flooded, and
That was in 1996,
Yeah,
Open,
right, yeah.
with that overnight rain on
Correct.
Wednesday. Right?
Yeah. That's when the great one that they sold out the tent of goodies. They sold everything. We had hot weather, cold weather,
Right.
rain, and everything
Right.
else. All the umbrellas were sold that week, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, Jack, it's been fun following your career, and I thank you for all the support you've given the younger journalists along the way, and I know you're very instrumental in my career in terms of Michigan golfer. You know, you've seen a lot of changes in how golf is covered, and you've been remarkable how you've done so many interviews, hundreds of interviews with Art, compiling interviews of some of the game's best
Which I
here in
have
Michigan.
enjoyed. Yes, Dan Pohl and Meg Mallon.
Right.
you know.
And
Champion
did you ever envision
golfers.
yourself being a YouTube interviewer like that?
No. The days of, when I started, we were pencil and paper,
Right.
and those little hand,
Right.
recorders, and it's gone through. Now we're into the 28th century, I think it is. It's for we who are a bit older,
Right.
it is a lot more difficult than nowadays.
That's right.
And it's changed so much.
What do you like about you still on top of the game, both here in Michigan and nationally, but what strikes you about covering the game today in terms of the people who are covering it and writing it? Is it you think it's become more of a just more of a visual medium, and there's
it's
less
been-
of emphasis on the words?
Been much so, because newspapers have all been killed
Yeah.
by television. It's hardly as I say, I've read the Grand Rapids paper on the Sunday morning after
Right.
Michigan started a noon football game and won easily, and there was nothing in the Grand Rapids Press on Sunday. And that's, news. When I started, we had a lot of guys in Boston. Gosh, they had 3 or 4 papers.
Right.
New York had a load of papers.
Right.
Chicago had more papers. We had the Detroit Times then too. It was the News Times and the Free Press. And so we've lost all that. Television
Right.
has much more Roman time,
Right.
though, like the Golf Channel. I mean, they're on forever, and they have done a good job. You know, I like that when they had Nabilo was on Golf
Frank
Channel. I
Nabilo,
think it's
yep.
on CBS now.
Yeah.
And Brendan, come on, give me his name.
Chambly.
Chambly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him.
Right.
And David Duvall has been on, and
Right.
like that. And you get more, a lot more out of the game and how it's being played and everything else. So I like that, and I like that. Just saw the other night the replay of the St. Andrews film, in which our man Tom Doak takes you all the way around the
That's right.
around the old course, and so that I enjoy what they can do
Right.
in that. And now that we're getting the Rocket Mortgage tournament at Detroit Golf Club,
Right.
has made the two Detroit papers realize that there's a PGA Tour now.
It's amazing.
And they had pretty much kissed off the women over in Grand Rapids with a great tournament and terrific champions and
Right.
everything else,
Yeah.
and a couple of Symetra tournaments, and so golf is getting more notice in the papers that it still exists
Right.
in Michigan.
I bet you still appreciate the fact, like the Golf Channel, Jack, will have journalists like Tim Rosefort,
Right.
past president like you of the Golf Writers Association of America,
Yep.
and also Jaime Diaz, who's been a fellow
There you
journalism
go.
award.
Yep.
I mean, talk a little bit about that. Isn't it nice to see the visual medium bringing in people who cover the beat on a daily
Very,
basis?
very much so. Well, they're the guys. Usually, people who start out in television now, they've never worked at a newspaper.
Right.
They don't understand
Right.
all the background that goes into it. Jaime is terrific, and the all during the Ryder Cup week.
Yep.
Awesome. It was wonderful, and I really enjoy what he
Right.
puts into it. And we missed Tim Rosefort, who
Sure.
died a year or so ago. And he was another good, solid newspaper guy in Florida area. And then he went out onto television and he must have had more telephone numbers than the
Right.
Manhattan phone directory.
He had one heck of a
everybody.
contact list, right? His cell
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
I mean, you could ask Tim for contact, he'd have it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, go back, and I bet it hasn't really changed, but what was the essence and what was your approach to covering a tournament? Say you were doing a game story. I think a lot of people don't realize, a golf writer, whether you're covering a Buick Open or the Masters, what the days are like. What's the day like to end up with a good story at the end of that round?
Well, starts more earlier in the week, and when they're practicing on. Usually they come in on a Tuesday, and then they play in a pro-am, and so you talk to them and see what who's hot, who's not,
Right.
and you get more out of them that way, and it helps you in the stories that you're going to be writing on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and
Right.
Sunday papers. I think one guy who was a little tough at the Buick and won a couple of times, Julius Boros.
Yeah.
And Julius would get there and he'd sit back, and after you go over his birdies and bogeys and
Right.
so forth, that enough? That enough? That enough?
was
He wanted to get
pretty
out of that
antsy, huh?
chair.
Pretty
Yeah,
antsy,
Whoa, wait a minute.
That's funny.
Got a few more questions here. So,
And what about? I know you always gave me some good advice, but didn't you say once you had the lead, everything kind of flowed after that? That was
Yes.
and you had to work through the day to see what lead would work, right?
well,
And obviously who was leading.
and you hope you got a good inspiration.
Right. Yeah. Well, you had a lot of good
Of
ones.
Something that you saw on the course,
Yeah.
the way it happened.
And who inspired you, Jack, as a golf writer or even a journalist? I mean, I know you've always been well read, not only in golf but
Yes.
in politics
Yeah.
and state of the world.
Well, I was lucky that I grew up. My dad worked for the Tigers.
Right.
He was traveling secretary from 1940 on, and so it enriched our family when they
Right.
won the World Series in 1945, beat the Cubs.
Yeah, right.
In 7 games. My hero, Hank Greenberg, who was my
Right.
all-time favorite
Right.
home run. And my dad got the same bonus out of the World Series pot as the players. Always voted him a full share.
Right.
So that paid off for our house.
Nice.
Their first house. And that was like that. And then H.G. Salsinger was the columnist and the sports editor at the News, and he was my dad's friend. And I like to read. I like to read
Right.
read the papers. And back at that time, we had good writers in every city
Right.
in the country. And now you're missing those words.
Right.
I just feel like I worked during the golden era of newspaper
Right.
writing,
Right.
and it's really unfortunate that it's disappeared
Right.
so much, and the papers have all gone. But a few are left, like Jaime.
Right.
Jaime is wonderful, and he was at the New York Times, and he had the other guys started from Boston, Chicago,
Right.
all over, Milwaukee. Yeah, those days are sadly gone. But I did.
Well, you stayed in the game, though. You've
Yeah.
stayed in the game, covered in your bed, which is nice.
Well, I enjoyed like the Ryder Cup. But man, I watched that
I know.
from start to finish.
And as you know, because you and I have been blessed being at a number of them, you really can't beat watching the Ryder Cup on television, particularly on the singles day, right?
Right.
It's nice
Right.
to have the atmosphere,
Right.
but you can't beat wall-to-wall coverage.
Well, you and I were over there for PGA.
That's
and
right.
It's a doggone difficult course for spectators.
It is, right.
To see. And I don't care about Mr. Kohler and his 1,000 bunkers on that golf course. I think that's ridiculous, so that every place is regarded as, I kind of felt sorry for
Dustin Johnson?
Yeah, Dustin Johnson, but he and his caddy never looked at or read the information in
That's right. It was
in the
posted in
locker
everybody's locker
room.
room.
Everybody
Right.
could say that everything is being regarded as a
Right.
bunker. They didn't do that.
Right.
He's gotten a lot smarter over the years.
Yes, he has.
I kind of thought he was Dumbo for a while,
Right.
but he is maybe his soon-to-be father-in-law,
Right.
Wayne Gretzky.
Right. Right.
I think it's helped him an awful lot.
Well, I'm going to hand off the baton, so to speak, to our colleague and friend Greg Johnson. But I want to make sure this has been a great conversation with Jack Berry on his 90th birthday. And I do want the record show, Jack. I was one of the first people to give you the card.
Thank you.
I didn't forget, and I got it on record.
Well, thanks to Terry and to Art McCafferty, who called me up one day and asked me if I'd come out and have lunch, and they asked me if I thought a magazine would have a chance, and it did. And it's, while the magazine part is gone now, it still lives thanks to Art.
Absolutely.
And Terry is always a good columnist.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
So,
And I do say too, I always liked Jack Berry's book back in 1993, Jack Berry's Guide to Michigan Golf. He is a published author. One of the best little synopsis. He called me one time. He wanted to know about a particular golf course in West Michigan, and of course we want to say something nice about every course. And I gave him what I said. I said, there's not a lot there, Jack, but I said, I know you can come up with them. And he came up with the remark, this course has trees, and trees give oxygen. Classic, Jack.
grow.
All right.